Good afternoon, Chris. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm great. How are you doing, Linda?
I'm doing great. This is Linda Brown with the Asheboro Randolph Chamber of Commerce, and today I'm with Chris Harrington from Elastic Therapy. And Chris is very actively involved and I don't know if it's an official, you lead the Apprenticeship Randolph group of partners, but you certainly are our spokesperson a lot of times. Um, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I did get officially, I guess, voted in as the chair. So I kind of started informally as a co-chair and then kind of formally as a co-chair, and then ultimately they made me the chairperson. So very involved with Apprenticeship Randolph. I'm also involved with the Workforce Development Board. Um, and I found myself actually the vice chair for that.
Oh,
Um, so it just really started out of need, but very involved with workforce development, all stemming from the needs that we had in elastic therapy and our inability to get the people that we needed with the skills that we wanted them to have.
mhm.
So we recognized that we had to start developing.
Well, I'm so happy that you've gotten as involved and engaged as you had because um, industry really needed kind of a spokesperson representing what their needs are. And the great thing is, educators and our public schools, the Charter Academy, RCC, they can guess at what they think industry needs and what the skills gaps are, but having industry so actively involved and being able to help say, well, here's exactly what we need, and can kind of speak that language along with the other industry partners, I just think that's been really valuable.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's critical. I think certainly the structure of the program, um, and just I mean for absolute clarity, it's 100% a partnership. I mean we couldn't do it without the collaboration. Nancy Cross, frankly, we wouldn't have the program that we have without Nancy with the county school system. And just, really, I mean, the city schools are great partners, the community college, you all with the chamber, and even the workforce development board. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they participate in all of the meetings, and I think it's been good. The consortium has been great for the apprenticeship aspects, but it's also been great just general collaboration. No place else that I've been, and I've been a lot of different places, have I been connected with other business leaders in the community like I am here. So it's been very helpful on many levels.
Well, as you know, Chris, Apprenticeship Randolph is a partner in a four-county coalition that does apprenticeship programs, and I think it's safe to say that none of the other counties or communities that are involved share the same type of collaborative partnership we have in Randolph County with Apprenticeship Randolph.
Well, absolutely, you're spot on. When I was participating in that as well, when it first really got going. So um, uh, kudos to Greensboro and High Point Chambers for really, I think, getting that started. I don't know exactly when it started. At the point that we were all invited to participate, kind of the first phase was already, I think, probably with the legislators. It was some $4.2 million, I believe, divided up half to Guilford and then 16th to each Randolph, Alamance, and Rockingham. But the approach was interesting because they naturally thought that um, all of the different functional areas should kind of subdivide and figure out how best to use that money to improve workforce skills, mainly through apprenticeship, but not exclusively through apprenticeship, So they kind of organized it so that the community college systems in the different counties would work together, and the K-12 systems, and the workforce boards, and then the existing apprenticeship would work together. And it just felt foreign to us in Randolph County. In fact, we kind of challenged it and said, well, that's fine. We definitely want to collaborate with our colleagues in the different counties from those different areas. But for Randolph County, we need to work together because that's the way we work. And so I think that actually helped to morph the whole ETWI structure to be more county-based versus collaborative, functional area-based. And I think that the outcomes were better because of it.
I agree. I agree. I sat in on a video call. There were about 10 or 12 of us with a representative from the National Association of Manufacturers, and that was just 2 days ago. And it was real interesting to hear her talk about how they've been lobbying in DC for funding to go toward workforce development. And they said that $10 billion had been set aside for workforce development initiatives like apprenticeships, like the program we have. And the good news is that if you're a registered apprenticeship program like Apprenticeship Randolph is, and if you have some success and collaboration going on, you stand a greater chance. The one thing that I'm keeping my fingers crossed on and finding out how we can help lend our voice to it is they want to allow some of that funding to be used by community colleges to buy advanced manufacturing equipment and tools that they might need in some of these training programs. So I thought that was great news because that equipment can be 6 figures or more.
Yeah, I think that's been, I mean, to me, one of the things that I've been saying for a couple of years now, my greatest fear with the programs ultimately is success, right? And the point being that as we've added industries, as we've added apprentices, that requires capacity in the community college to be able to provide the education, the skills, and that takes equipment, specialized equipment, and they've only got so much capacity. I think we've done a really good job of working together and being flexible from an industry standpoint so that, not all of the classes are done, on one day, because that probably wouldn't be very beneficial to the apprentices.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also, we've been flexible in allowing the school, the community college, to schedule it, even some of the classes during the daytime or in the evening based on their capacity. But at some point, they're not going to have enough capacity for all of our apprentices in addition to their regular curriculum students. So yeah, that equipment is sorely needed.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting listening to this woman talk. She talked about things that, everybody here is very much aware of. Number one, about the skills gap. There's jobs available that can't be filled because there just aren't people that have the skills to fill them, which is why we have programs like Apprenticeship Randolph. She also talked about employability. That's a number 2 or a second item, maybe not in the same order, but those are the soft skills that we talk about a lot. Learning how to know to set your alarm so you get up on time to get to work and you can communicate and you can pass a drug screen and all the things that make you employable. But the third thing she talked about was something I hadn't really considered before, and I'd love to get your take on it, but she talked about the looming retirement that's sitting out there in the next 10 to 15 years of people who have worked in manufacturing their whole career and will be retiring. And so there's kind of this knowledge base that could be disappearing and creating even more jobs that need to be filled. So have you thought about that, or?
Well, actually, I have. So you may or may not be aware, but I actually just completed my dissertation last year and actually did it on kind of the skills gap workforce in apprenticeship. And you're right. There's 60 to 70% of employers, and notwithstanding the current coronavirus environment that we're in, 60 to 70% of employers, so not just manufacturing, but employers generally, indicated that they have issues getting the workers that they need that have the skills that they're looking for. Um, at the same time, you've got 10,000 baby boomers reaching the age of 65 every day. That started a couple of years ago and will continue through the year 2030. So for the next 10 years, every day in America, 10,000 boomers reach the age of 65.
Wow.
So you're right that's a concern. And then in addition to that, we've got Industry 4.0, or artificial intelligence. And depending on the different projections, studies, et cetera, the projections are anywhere between 10% and 50% of the workforce. Actually will have to change the job skills, maybe even for the jobs that they have or as they move around in the workforce. And frankly, what I think the current environment with the COVID-19, I think that's going to exacerbate that. I think it's going to accelerate it because I think what we're seeing is, we're seeing a lot of people that are actually able to work from home, more so than many people would have thought. I think that as more people figure out how to restart, automation is going to become more and more important, where they want to mitigate the risk of humans. I think it's going to be more important as people rationalize their supply chains. There's a lot of companies that were hurt when it was just China because they couldn't get what they needed in. And then as more and more countries have shut down, that's become more and more problematic. As more and more countries have made certain materials and items, they banned export or import because of coronavirus. So I think the combination of all of that's going to make companies rationalize more and have more of a local supply chain where they can. And when they do that, especially in the U.S., I think that's going to mean, how do they do it but without high labor content? And that's going to be more automation.
Yeah.
So, and then just from an elastic therapy standpoint, I would say that, that's one of the reasons that we are staunch advocates of the apprenticeship program. About a third of our workforce is either already at the age that they could have retired or they're within a few years of being at that age. So it's critical for us. And it's mostly, it's our highest skilled workers. So very, very critical.
Well, I want to pivot here for a few minutes. You bring up obviously coronavirus. We've been in this thing for how many weeks now? It seems like years. The days just feel a lot longer these days. But I want to know, how has it affected you at Elastic Therapy? Have you pivoted and changed the types of products is there higher demand for some things than others? Have you had to cut back on production? I mean, what's it done for you, if that's not a trade secret?
No. I think it's fine. Overall, our business has been pretty steady. It probably wasn't until just a couple of weeks ago that we saw a little bit of softening, and then only in certain pockets. A big part of our business, we're a medical device manufacturing company, making compression hosiery. So a lot of the higher compression, more medical type products versus the fashion type products, that demand is as strong as ever. Part of our portfolio is used in hospitals for kind of the post-op. That demand has been steady and growing. And to your point, we have also pivoted and developed a barrier mask that we started mass producing to try to fill the need for PPE. So from an overall business standpoint, I think certainly business can always be stronger. It's always, you always want the challenge of figuring out how to get it done, as opposed to the opposite. For our workers, there too, it's been a mix. I think our parent company has been pretty generous with our high risk employees in trying to do right by them. So we've got some employees that have been out kind of from the beginning of the stay home order. We've got some employees that while they may not be high risk, if just out of fear or concern for themselves and their families, that have chosen not to work, or that's their decision. While if they had some pay time off available, they'd use that. We're not allowing them to file for unemployment because work is available to them. But in certain job functions, in the last couple of weeks, we have had some people out for lack of work. And again, even with that, we've tried to be, I'll say, planful about it. So instead of having 5 people out for one day, we try to, be better at planning so that we've got one person out for the week so that they can, take advantage of the benefits that the state and federal government have put out there, and still continue to operate the business. Right. We've had to do a ton of different things inside the plant to try to maintain safety with social distancing. We've as soon as we started producing the masks, we made the barrier masks mandatory, except for when they're on break. So, I'm in my office, so I don't have to wear mine, but I have it right here, right? So if somebody comes in, I have to put it on. We've made that mandatory. We've made safety glasses mandatory at any time in the plant, even breaks or whatever. And even for people that wear glasses, they have to wear at least a side shield. X-ray hand sanitizer, we've actually employed from the very beginning, even before the stay home order. We employed a couple of people that their full-time job is nothing but disinfecting. So all of the high traffic areas, high touch areas, they're doing it 2 to 3 times per shift, just to make sure that we're doing that sanitizing. And again, I wanted to make sure that it was somebody's role, because otherwise, it would take a back seat at times, and I didn't want that. We had a hard time finding thermometers. We're implementing the temperature check coming in. We put restrictions on who could be in the building early on, as I think most did, and any vendors that have to come in, we have them, self-attest to certain things for travel and health and all of that. So I think we're doing a lot of the right things. I think some things we did good very quickly. Some things took us a little longer to be able to implement. One of the things that people find, I think, a little bit funny, but as odd as it is, toilet paper is still hard to find. So one of our suppliers actually sold the industrial supplier, but in single wrap rolls. So we bought enough to give all of our employees 4 rolls each.
Oh,
just in
nice.
case. Right. So typically we like to do food for appreciation, but in this environment, that's really not a great idea. So we did toilet paper instead.
That's fantastic. Something the whole family can use.
Absolutely.
Well, you brought up some good points, and manufacturers like you at Elastic Therapy, you kind of had to blaze the trail for what to do working through this. And a lot of businesses, the chamber, for example, we had to close when the stay-at-home order was given, And now that we're looking down the road to being able to go back to work, we've got to learn all that stuff. And so just today, the Chamber published a Back to Business toolkit, and it's been linked on our Facebook page and it's also on our website. And it's got some great things like you're talking about, some suggestions that come from the CDC. There's also, you were talking about some of the HR issues. It references some of the things recommended by the CDC. It's got some OSHA recommendations in there. And it's got some posters that people can put up for smaller businesses about, reaching capacity and kind of explaining to customers with a one sheet what your coronavirus plan is so that they feel safe coming in. And I think that's going to be something really useful for people to use. But we have folks like you and others that have been working through this to thank for kind of helping create the map so we know where to go and what to do.
Yeah, again, for us, we had the benefit because we are part of a bigger organization. So, we had a lot of best practices sharing. So that's been really helpful. I mean, wherever possible, we do have our employees, practicing social distancing, but a lot of jobs that's just not possible.
Right.
So we put up plexiglass between, people on packing stations and things like that. In our break areas, one of our break rooms, we were able to, kind of add tables and literally mark where the chairs can go, and took out the chairs, the extra chairs and things of that nature. One of them is more of a booth type setup. So we use caution tape to block where people just can't be to try to, help them maintain that social distancing. We marked out 6 feet divisions by the time clocks so that they don't gather there. Of course, time clocks, ours happen to be biometric. So, those are certainly on the disinfecting, protocols and things like that. So, conference rooms, we still, we do some face-to-face meetings, but we've spread out. We've limited the number of people, and frankly, even our morning meeting, we have people, we do, some people are in the room and then others call in. So it's a combination.
Oh, that's great. Well, is there anything else you want to add? Any words of wisdom or advice or best pro tip?
No, I mean, I think, again, I think if obviously we're all, have to be considerate about whatever our business is, our customers. We have to think about their safety and the value of what it is that we do. None of us can do it without our employees. So we have to be mindful of them, both from a health and safety standpoint, which is just really amped up in the current environment. But I think that also really goes back to the whole development, right? So, our people, I think one thing society is really starting to think more about is the value of all of our workers, and frankly, how people that may have not been highly regarded because of the role that they play on a day-to-day basis, how every one of those are critical and how all interrelated and interdependent we are. And certainly look forward to everything getting back to some semblance of normal, at least from an economic standpoint. And I believe, for all of the reasons that I shared, that despite the current unemployment levels, and I don't see that rebounding probably very quickly. I don't think that even by the end of the year we'll be to the same levels that we were. I'm hopeful that our legislators, think more long term, and the facts are we still have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every day, and the facts are we still have Industry 4.0 looking at us in So we still need to do all of the things that we were doing before this. Probably just, it may look a little different, and in some aspects, we probably have to do more of it.
Well, I think you're right. Um, Chris had sent me a one sheet that shows a picture of what their masks look like that they're making, and those are available to the public to buy. And they've got tiered pricing based on how many you order. If you order one or 10,000, they've got pricing. So I'll go ahead and link that. This video will be on the Chamber's YouTube channel, and it'll be linked to our Facebook page. But on the Facebook posting, I'll also link a spot you can go to and see that if you need a mask or want to order a mask. And I think if you're buying them, I think up to 100 or 300, it's about $3.50 for a mask, and something made right here in Randolph County, and something you can be proud to wear and feel good about wearing, because somebody, quality of life begins with a job, and somebody living right here in Randolph County working in elastic therapy made that mask, and you can feel good about that. So I appreciate your time, Chris.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to share about the great things that we have going on here in Randolph County.
Well, it's great talking to you as always. And in the meantime, thanks again. And I know I'll be talking to you soon with Apprenticeship Randolph.
Thank you. Bye.